Welcome to Epic Story English. Today, we uncover the extraordinary life of Julius Caesar, the man who changed Rome forever. In the 1st century BCE, Rome was more than a republic. It was the center of power, wealth, war, and political ambition. Noble families fought constantly for influence, and every rising leader dreamed of ruling the Roman world. In the middle of this dangerous atmosphere, a child was born who would eventually change history forever. His name was Julius Caesar. He was born in 100 BCE into the respected Julian family, a bloodline that claimed descent from the goddess Venus. Although his family possessed noble status, they lacked great wealth and political dominance. Even as a boy, Caesar displayed remarkable confidence, intelligence, and ambition. While other children spent their days playing games, Caesar became fascinated by stories of military heroes, kings, and legendary rulers. His mother, Aurelia, was highly respected for her discipline and wisdom. She ensured that Caesar received an excellent education in literature, philosophy, public speaking, and politics. These skills later became powerful tools in his rise to greatness. During Caesar's youth, Rome suffered from political violence and fear under the rule of the dictator Sulla. Because Caesar refused to obey one of Sulla's demands, his life was suddenly placed in danger. Instead of surrendering, Caesar escaped Rome and lived in exile. This experience became the first major challenge of his life. During his years away from home, Caesar joined military campaigns and gained battlefield experience. He proved himself courageous in combat and earned respect among soldiers and commanders. More importantly, he understood that true power was earned through loyalty, influence, and public support. When Caesar finally returned to Rome, he started working as a lawyer and public speaker. His speeches were intelligent and unforgettable. Large crowds gathered to hear him speak because he possessed charisma and confidence. Step by step, Julius Caesar was beginning the extraordinary journey that would transform Rome forever. After returning to Rome, Julius Caesar understood that bravery alone could never guarantee success in the ruthless world of Roman politics. Rome was filled with corruption, secret alliances, and ambitious senators who constantly fought for control of the republic. Caesar realized that if he wanted to rise above everyone else, he needed both the support of the people and the trust of powerful leaders. Using his intelligence and natural charm, he slowly began building his reputation across the city. He attended public gatherings, listened carefully to ordinary citizens, and promised reforms that would improve their lives. Unlike many nobles who ignored the poor, Caesar treated common people with respect, and this helped him gain popularity quickly. At the same time, he spent enormous amounts of money organizing festivals and public celebrations to attract attention and strengthen his image. Many admired his generosity, while others feared his growing influence. Caesar also formed relationships with political figures, understanding that alliances were necessary for survival in Roman politics. Over time, his speeches became famous because he spoke with confidence and clarity. Citizens believed that Caesar understood their struggles. His popularity increased further when he served as a military officer and demonstrated courage and leadership on the battlefield. Roman soldiers respected him because he shared their hardships and inspired loyalty among his men. Eventually, Caesar formed a political alliance with Pompey and Crassus, two influential men in Rome. This partnership became known as the First Triumvirate. Together, they controlled of Roman politics and helped Caesar gain important positions within the government. Yet behind the success, dangerous tensions were growing. Many senators feared Caesar's ambition and worried that he desired absolute power. However, Caesar remained determined, believing destiny had chosen him for greatness. Julius Caesar had already become popular in Rome, but he understood that political fame alone was never enough to secure lasting power. In the Roman Republic, military glory was the true path to greatness. In 58 BCE, Caesar received control over Gaul, a territory covering modern France and nearby regions. Many Roman senators expected the assignment to keep him far away from politics, but Caesar saw something far greater. He saw an opportunity to build an empire of influence through war. The tribes of Gaul were fierce, independent, and resistant to Roman control. Some leaders attempted peace, while others prepared for battle against the advancing Roman legions. Caesar moved, leading his soldiers across dangerous rivers, dense forests, and freezing mountains. His army admired him because he fought beside them instead of hiding behind luxury and comfort. Even during the hardest moments, Caesar remained fearless. His greatest weapon was not only his sword but also his brilliant strategy. He studied enemy movements carefully and often defeated larger armies through discipline and clever planning. Year after year, Caesar expanded Roman control deeper into Gaul, winning victories that shocked both his enemies and the politicians back in Rome. The most dangerous challenge came from Vercingetorix, a powerful Gallic leader who united many tribes into one rebellion against Rome. Their final confrontation took place at Alesia, where Caesar trapped the enemy inside a defended fortress. At the same time, huge enemy reinforcements attacked from outside the walls, placing Caesar's forces in extreme danger. Despite the overwhelming pressure, Caesar refused to retreat. His soldiers fought with discipline and determination until the Roman legions finally achieved victory. Vercingetorix surrendered, and Gaul fell under Roman control. Caesar returned from the campaign richer, stronger, and more famous. Across Rome, people celebrated him as a hero forever. After years of victory in Gaul, Julius Caesar had become the most famous general in Rome. His campaigns brought wealth, glory, and loyal soldiers who would follow him anywhere. Ordinary citizens admired him deeply, but many senators feared his growing influence. They believed Caesar wanted absolute power and might destroy the Roman Republic itself. Pompey, who had once been Caesar's close ally, slowly joined the Senate against him. Political tension spread across Rome as both sides prepared for confrontation. Eventually, the Senate ordered Caesar to dismiss his army and return to Rome alone. Caesar immediately understood the danger hidden behind the command. Without his soldiers, he would lose protection and his enemies could ruin him forever. Yet refusing the order meant starting a civil war against Rome. Caesar spent days thinking carefully about the decision while standing near the Rubicon River, the legal border that Roman generals were forbidden to cross with troops. His soldiers waited silently for his command, knowing history was about to change forever. In 49 BCE, Caesar finally made his choice. According to legend, he declared, "The die is cast," before leading his army across the river. That single action shocked the entire republic. Senators fled Rome in panic while Pompey escaped south to gather forces. Caesar advanced quickly through Italy, capturing towns without major resistance because many citizens supported him. They believed Caesar would bring order to a republic already weakened by corruption and political conflict. Every step toward Rome increased Caesar's power and reputation. The crossing of the Rubicon became one of the most famous moments in ancient history because it marked the beginning of Rome's transformation forever. Caesar knew there was no turning back after that night beside the river. From that moment onward, his fate and the fate of Rome became permanently connected through war and ambition. Alone. After crossing the Rubicon and taking control of Italy, Julius Caesar moved against his enemies. Pompey escaped to Greece, where he gathered a massive army with support from powerful senators who still defended the republic. Caesar understood that the conflict could only end through complete victory. In 48 BCE, armies finally met at the Battle of Pharsalus. Although Pompey possessed larger forces, Caesar relied on discipline, experience, and brilliant tactics. His soldiers fought with fierce loyalty because they trusted him completely. The battle ended in a devastating defeat for Pompey, forcing him to flee Egypt in desperation. However, before Pompey could rebuild his strength, he was assassinated by Egyptian officials hoping to gain Caesar's favor. When Caesar arrived in Egypt and saw Pompey's severed head, he reportedly felt anger instead of satisfaction. Despite being enemies, Pompey had once been his ally and son-in-law. During his stay in Egypt, Caesar became involved in a struggle for the Egyptian throne between Cleopatra and her brother Ptolemy. Cleopatra impressed Caesar with her intelligence, ambition, and political skill. Together they formed a powerful alliance that changed Egyptian history forever. After securing victory in Egypt, Caesar returned to Rome as the undisputed ruler of the Roman world. The Senate granted him enormous powers and eventually declared him dictator for life. Caesar introduced many reforms designed to strengthen Rome, including changes to the calendar, government administration, and citizenship laws. Many ordinary people supported these reforms because they improved stability after years of civil war. Yet some senators feared Caesar's growing authority and believed he planned to become a king. Secret resentment spread through the Senate while Caesar continued expanding his control over Rome. Though he stood at the height of power, dangerous enemies were already preparing against him in silence. As Julius Caesar's power continued to grow, fear spread through the Roman Senate. Many senators believed the Republic was dying and that Caesar intended to crown himself king. Although Caesar claimed he wanted stability for Rome, his enemies viewed every reform as another step toward absolute rule. Statues of Caesar appeared across the city, his supporters praised him openly, and crowds cheered whenever he entered public spaces. To loyal citizens, Caesar was a hero who had rescued Rome from chaos and corruption. To his opponents, he had become a dangerous threat to Roman freedom. Among the senators who feared him were Cassius and Brutus, men who eventually organized a secret conspiracy against him. Brutus created the greatest emotional conflict because Caesar trusted him deeply and treated him almost like family. The conspirators convinced themselves that assassination was the only way to save the Republic from dictatorship. For weeks, they planned carefully while pretending to remain loyal. Meanwhile, warnings about danger surrounded Caesar from every direction. According to legend, a soothsayer warned him to beware the Ides of March, but Caesar ignored the prophecy completely. On the morning of March 15, 44 BCE, Caesar traveled to the Senate meeting despite concerns from friends and even his wife Calpurnia, who feared terrible disaster after frightening dreams during the night. When Caesar entered the Senate chamber, the conspirators surrounded him suddenly. At first, Caesar tried to resist the attack, but dozens of senators pulled hidden daggers and stabbed him repeatedly. Ancient stories claim Caesar's final shock came when he saw Brutus among the attackers. The greatest ruler in Rome collapsed at the base of Pompey's statue, covered in blood. Silence filled the Senate as the conspirators realized they had changed Roman history forever, yet instead of saving the Republic, the assassination pushed Rome toward more civil wars soon. The assassination of Julius Caesar sent shockwaves across the Roman world. The conspirators believed they had rescued the Republic from tyranny, but their actions created fear, anger, and instability instead of freedom. After Caesar fell beneath the daggers inside the Senate chamber, the assassins walked through the streets declaring that Rome had been liberated. Yet ordinary citizens reacted very differently from what the conspirators expected. Many people admired Caesar because he had brought order after years of civil war and introduced reforms that improved life for common Romans. Shops closed, crowds gathered in confusion, and rumors of revenge spread quickly through the city. Mark Antony, Caesar's loyal supporter and trusted military commander, immediately realized the political danger surrounding Rome. Pretending to cooperate with the conspirators, Antony secretly planned a response. During Caesar's funeral, he delivered a speech that changed Roman history forever. Standing before thousands of grieving citizens, Antony praised Caesar's victories, his generosity, and his dedication to Rome. He then revealed Caesar's wounded body to the crowd and described the betrayal that had taken place inside the Senate. The emotional speech transformed sadness into rage. Furious citizens marched through the streets demanding justice while the conspirators fled the city in fear for their lives. At the same time, a young man named Octavian arrived after learning Caesar had adopted him as his legal heir. Though still very young, Octavian possessed intelligence, patience, and ambition beyond his years. Many leaders underestimated him, but he quickly gained support from Caesar's loyal soldiers and political allies. Rome soon became trapped in another dangerous struggle for power, proving that Caesar's death had not saved the Republic at all. Instead, it pushed Rome toward even greater conflict and the rise of a new empire. Chaos followed. After the death of Julius Caesar, Rome was consumed by fear, violence, and political uncertainty. Powerful leaders competed to control the Republic while ordinary citizens struggled to understand what the future would bring. Among all the ambitious figures rising during this dangerous period, one young man slowly began gaining attention across Rome. His name was Octavian, the adopted son and legal heir of Julius Caesar. Although he was only 18 years old, Octavian possessed remarkable intelligence, patience, and political skill. Many senators dismissed him as inexperienced and weak, while Mark Antony believed the young heir could easily be controlled. However, Octavian understood that survival in Roman politics required careful planning instead of reckless emotion. He quietly built alliances, gained the loyalty of Caesar's former soldiers, and presented himself as the rightful protector of Caesar's legacy. Over time, the Roman people began respecting him because he appeared calm, disciplined, and determined during a period filled with chaos. Eventually, Octavian formed a temporary alliance with Mark Antony and Lepidus to defeat Caesar's assassins. Together they created the Second Triumvirate and launched brutal campaigns against their enemies. The conspirators Brutus and Cassius were finally defeated at the Battle of Philippi, ending hopes of restoring the old republic. Yet peace still did not return to Rome. Tension slowly grew between Octavian and Antony as both men desired ultimate power. Antony's relationship with Cleopatra further damaged his reputation among Romans, allowing Octavian to present himself as the true defender of Rome. Step by step, Octavian increased his influence while weakening his rivals politically and militarily. The struggle for control of Rome was far from over, but a new era had already begun across the ancient world forever. Rome now stood at the edge of becoming an empire under one ruler. Forever. As tensions between Octavian and Mark Antony continued to rise, Rome moved toward another devastating civil war. Antony had grown deeply connected to Cleopatra, the powerful queen of Egypt, and together they formed an alliance that worried many Romans. Octavian used this relationship to weaken Antony politically. He claimed Antony had abandoned Roman traditions and fallen completely under Cleopatra's influence. According to Octavian, Antony no longer cared about the Republic and intended to create a new empire beside the Egyptian queen. These accusations spread rapidly across Rome and increased support for Octavian among senators and citizens alike. Meanwhile, Antony and Cleopatra gathered enormous armies and warships for the inevitable conflict. Both sides understood that the future of the Roman world would soon be decided through battle. In 31 BCE, their forces finally met Octavian's fleet at the famous Battle of Actium. The naval battle became one of the most important confrontations in ancient history. Octavian's brilliant commander, Agrippa, slowly gained control of the fight through careful strategy and discipline. As Antony's forces began losing advantage, Cleopatra suddenly withdrew her ships from the battlefield. Antony followed her fleet immediately, abandoning many of his remaining soldiers. The defeat shattered Antony's reputation and handed Octavian complete military dominance. After escaping to Egypt, Antony and Cleopatra realized their situation had become hopeless. Octavian's armies advanced toward Alexandria while support for Antony disappeared rapidly. Believing Cleopatra had died, Antony took his own life in despair. Soon afterward, Cleopatra also chose death rather than living as Octavian's prisoner. Their tragic downfall ended one of history's most legendary alliances forever. Rome now belonged entirely to Octavian alone. The Roman Republic ended forever, and the age of emperors finally began. Truly. After defeating all his rivals, Octavian stood alone as the ruler of the Roman world. Years of civil war had destroyed the Roman Republic, exhausted its armies, and filled the people with fear and uncertainty. Yet Octavian understood something that many leaders before him had failed to realize. Rome no longer wanted endless political conflict. The citizens wanted stability, peace, and strong leadership after decades of violence. Instead of calling himself a king, Octavian acted carefully and presented himself as the protector of Roman traditions. In 27 BCE, the Senate granted him the title Augustus, meaning the revered one. From that moment, Augustus became the first emperor of Rome, even though he avoided using the word emperor openly. He reorganized the government, strengthened the military, improved tax systems, and rebuilt many parts of the city. Under his leadership, Rome entered a long period of peace and prosperity known as the Pax Romana. Temples, roads, monuments, and trade networks expanded across the empire. Ordinary citizens finally experienced stability after years of chaos and bloodshed. Yet the rise of Augustus also marked the permanent end of the Roman Republic that had existed for centuries. The Senate still survived, but true authority now belonged to one ruler alone. Everything that followed began with Julius Caesar and the choices he made during his extraordinary life. His ambition, victories, reforms, and assassination changed Roman history forever. Even after death, Caesar's influence continued shaping the future through Augustus and the empire that followed. Generations of rulers studied Caesar's leadership, while historians remembered him as one of history's greatest military and political figures. His story became a symbol of ambition, courage, power, and destiny. The extraordinary life of Julius Caesar did not simply change Rome. It transformed the course of world history forever. His name still echoes through history forever. Long after the fall of the Roman Republic, the name of Julius Caesar continued to influence civilizations across the world. His military strategies were studied by generals, his political decisions were debated by historians, and his ambition became both a warning and an inspiration for future rulers. Caesar proved that intelligence, confidence, and determination could lift a man from danger and exile to the height of absolute power. Yet his story also revealed the heavy price of ambition. Many people admired Caesar because he transformed Rome during a period of corruption and instability. He introduced reforms that improved administration, expanded citizenship, and created systems that influenced governments for centuries. One of his most important achievements was the Julian calendar, which later became the foundation for the modern calendar used today. Even after his assassination, Caesar's ideas and influence survived through Augustus and the Roman Empire that followed. Writers, philosophers, and leaders across generations continued discussing his life because it contained triumph, betrayal, war, loyalty, and tragedy. Shakespeare later turned Caesar's assassination into one of the most famous plays in literature, ensuring his story would never be forgotten. Around the world, the title Caesar itself became a symbol of supreme authority and inspired titles like Kaiser and Tsar in later empires. More than 2,000 years after his death, Julius Caesar remains one of the most recognizable figures in human history. His rise from a young nobleman to the ruler of Rome changed the direction of civilization forever. His victories shaped Europe, his reforms influenced politics, and his legend survived long after the empire itself disappeared. The story of Julius Caesar is ultimately the story of power, destiny, brilliance, and the eternal human desire to achieve greatness. His unforgettable legacy continues inspiring historians and leaders even today. Always. The story of Julius Caesar remains one of the greatest journeys ever recorded in human history. From his early years in a troubled Roman Republic to his rise as the most powerful man in Rome, Caesar's life was filled with ambition, danger, victory, and betrayal. He faced exile during his youth, survived political enemies, conquered vast territories, and transformed himself into a legend whose name would survive for thousands of years. Caesar understood the power of leadership better than most rulers of his time. He inspired loyalty among soldiers, gained support from ordinary citizens, and used intelligence as effectively as military strength. His campaigns in Gaul demonstrated extraordinary courage and strategy, while his political reforms showed his desire to reshape Rome into a stronger and more organized state. Yet the same ambition that made Caesar powerful also created fear among those around him. Many senators believed his growing authority threatened the freedom of the Republic, leading to the conspiracy that ended his life on the Ides of March. However, Caesar's assassination did not destroy his influence. Instead, it pushed Rome into another period of conflict that eventually gave birth to the Roman Empire under Augustus. In many ways, Caesar achieved immortality through the empire that followed him. His legacy survived not only through history books but also through literature, politics, military strategy, and popular culture across the world. Even today, historians continue studying his decisions, his leadership style, and the dramatic events that shaped his life. Julius Caesar became far more than a Roman ruler. He became a symbol of ambition, courage, intelligence, and destiny itself. His extraordinary journey proved that one individual could change the direction of history forever. More than 2,000 years later, the legend of Julius Caesar still continues inspiring people across the world. Forever. The extraordinary life of Julius Caesar continues to fascinate the world because his story feels greater than ordinary history. He was not born a king, nor did he inherit unlimited power at the beginning of his life. Instead, Caesar rose through intelligence, courage, patience, and relentless ambition. Every stage of his journey tested him in different ways. As a young man, he survived exile and political danger during the rule of Sulla. Later, he entered the ruthless world of Roman politics, where betrayal, manipulation, and rivalry controlled the future of the Republic. Yet Caesar adapted to every challenge with confidence and determination. His military campaigns in Gaul transformed him into one of the most respected commanders in history. Through discipline, strategy, and fearless leadership, he expanded Roman territory and gained the loyalty of his soldiers. At the same time, Caesar understood the importance of influence and public support. He delivered powerful speeches, formed alliances, and introduced reforms that increased his popularity among ordinary citizens. However, his success also created dangerous enemies inside the Senate. Many feared that Caesar's growing authority threatened the freedom of Rome itself. Their fears eventually led to the conspiracy that ended his life on the Ides of March. Even after his assassination, Caesar's influence never disappeared. His adopted heir Augustus transformed Rome into an empire and carried Caesar's legacy into a new age. The name Caesar later became a symbol of supreme authority across different civilizations. Historians still debate whether Caesar saved Rome or destroyed the Republic through ambition. Regardless of opinion, few figures in history have changed the world as deeply as Julius Caesar. His story remains a timeless symbol of power, destiny, courage, and human ambition forever. His victories, reforms, and tragic death continue inspiring writers, leaders, and historians today. Julius Caesar's rise from a young Roman nobleman to the ruler of Rome became one of history's most unforgettable journeys. His life was driven by ambition, courage, intelligence, and an endless desire for greatness. During his youth, Caesar faced political danger under the rule of Sulla and was forced into exile, yet those hardships only strengthened his determination. Instead of surrendering to fear, he studied warfare, leadership, and the art of persuasion. Over time, he gained influence in Roman politics through powerful speeches and clever alliances. However, Caesar understood that military glory was the true path to lasting power in Rome. His campaigns in Gaul transformed him into a legendary commander admired by soldiers and feared by enemies. Through discipline and brilliant strategy, he expanded Roman territory and gained enormous wealth and popularity. Yet his success created fear among senators who believed Caesar threatened the Republic itself. Their conflict eventually pushed Rome into civil war after Caesar crossed the Rubicon with his army. After defeating his rivals, Caesar introduced reforms that strengthened the government and brought stability to Rome. Still, many senators feared he wanted absolute control. On the Ides of March, conspirators assassinated Caesar inside the Senate chamber, believing they had saved the Republic. Instead, his death created more chaos and opened the path for Augustus to establish the Roman Empire. Even after more than 2,000 years, Julius Caesar remains a symbol of power, leadership, ambition, and destiny whose story still inspires the world today forever. Historians continue studying his victories, speeches, reforms and political decisions because few individuals changed history so completely. Caesar proved that one determined leader could reshape an entire civilization through vision, courage and relentless ambition. His legacy survived the Republic, the Empire, and even the passing of centuries forever. The legacy of Julius Caesar survived long after his death and continued shaping world history for centuries. Although his enemies succeeded in assassinating him inside the Roman Senate, they failed to destroy the influence he had already created across Rome and beyond. Caesar's military victories expanded Roman territory, strengthened its economy, and transformed him into one of the most respected commanders in ancient history. His political reforms improved administration, reorganized government systems, and gave hope to ordinary citizens who were exhausted by corruption and endless civil wars. Even after his assassination, Rome could never return to the old republic because Caesar had permanently changed the balance of power forever. His adopted heir Augustus completed that transformation by establishing the Roman Empire, beginning a new era that ruled much of the known world for generations. The name Caesar itself later became a symbol of supreme authority in different civilizations. Historians, writers, generals, and leaders continued studying his life because it contained ambition, courage, war, betrayal, intelligence, and destiny. More than 2,000 years after his death, Julius Caesar remains one of the most recognized figures in human history. His journey from exile to absolute power proved that one determined individual could change civilization forever. His extraordinary story still inspires millions around the world today. Ancient roads, monuments, laws, and traditions created during Caesar's era influenced countless societies across Europe and beyond. His name became immortal because his life represented both the glory and danger of unlimited ambition. Some viewed him as the savior of Rome, while others believed he destroyed the Republic forever. Yet no one could deny the enormous impact he left upon the ancient world and human history. Even today, the legend of Julius Caesar continues inspiring leaders, historians, and dreamers worldwide. Julius Caesar's story is more than the rise of a Roman ruler. It is the story of ambition, courage, power, and destiny. From exile to conquest, from political struggles to becoming the most powerful man in Rome, Caesar changed history forever. Even after his assassination, his influence continued through the Roman Empire created by Augustus. His victories, reforms, and leadership transformed the ancient world and inspired generations of rulers, soldiers, and historians. More than 2,000 years later, the name Julius Caesar still represents greatness and power. His life proved that one determined individual could reshape civilization itself. Though Rome changed with time, the legend of Caesar never disappeared. His extraordinary journey remains one of history's greatest stories ever told forever. Thank you for watching Epic Story English. If you enjoyed this journey through history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for more epic stories from the past.